Hello and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says no Russian strike will go unpunished after deadly attacks on Kyiv and southern Ukraine, has praised long-range Neptune missiles and has urged more air defense support from partners as civilian casualties continue to rise. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned Russia's latest wave of large-scale missile and drone strikes on Ukraine, which reportedly killed at least 8 people and caused widespread damage across several regions. He has added that such attacks violate international humanitarian law. US President Donald Trump lifts tariffs on beef, coffee, and other agricultural products to stabilize prices and ease inflation. The move affects products like tomatoes, bananas, aligning with recent agreements with Ecuador, Argentina, and other countries. US President Donald Trump says that he has decided on how to proceed on Venezuela. This comes as top Trump administration officials, military, and senior staffs gathered at the White House for at least the third day in a row to discuss possible military operations in Venezuela. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance says that U.S. President Donald Trump recognizes the need to negotiate with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. Despite their differences, this comes as a meeting between Trump and Putin in Budapest was cancelled earlier. U.S. President Donald Trump says China will buy U.S. soybeans and other farm goods, adding that both sides held talks on 14 November. Trump expects purchases to begin before spring, though he did not identify which officials were involved in the discussions. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that he would likely sue the BBC next week for as much as $5 billion after the British broadcaster admitted it wrongly edited a video of a speech he gave but insisted that there was no legal basis for his claim. 9 people were killed and 29 injured after a massive accidental blast at Naugam police station in Srinagar, India. The explosion occurred while forensic teams handled seized explosives linked to a terror module, leaving widespread damage and shock waves felt kilometers away. Now we move on to China and Japan, starting from Asia. Chinese Ambassador to Japan Wu Jianghao has met with Japanese Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs Takehiro Funakoshi to lodge formal representations and a strong protest over Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's recent remarks on China. Wu has criticized Takaichi's statements on Taiwan during a parliamentary debate as provocative, violating international law, the One China Principle and China-Japan agreements. He has stated that her refusal to retract the comments reflected a serious misjudgment and overestimation of Japan's strength. Wu has emphasized that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China and any interference by external forces is unacceptable. He has warned that Japan's calls for military intervention in the Taiwan Strait challenges China's core interests and could lead to Japan to a dead end. Marking the 80th anniversary of the victory of Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, Wu has reminded Japan of its historical crimes in Taiwan and stressed that any attempts to intervene militarily today would meet decisive resistance. China has urged Japan to retract the remarks, stop provocations, and reflect on history, warning that failure to do so would have serious consequences. Now for this discussion, we welcome Andrew K.P. Long. He's a China strategist, joins us live from Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Andrew, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, as we continue on the discussion on Japan and China, how do you think has things changed? Did it escalate since the last time we spoke?
Well, I think that this is the the first time the new Japanese Prime Minister, the lady Prime Minister, has expressed such an aggressive and confrontational remarks on Taiwan in the Japanese Parliament. And of course, Taiwan is nothing to do with Japan, and Beijing is not about to invade Taiwan anytime soon. But of course, the unification of Taiwan is, of course, is an internal matter for China. But Japan sees it differently because Taiwan, of course, is in the South China Sea. If you look at the map, Taiwan occupies a very strategic geographical position. But even though Beijing reoccupies Taiwan, this does not mean China is going to invade Japan. But on the other hand, Taiwan is always seen as a strategic outpost to confront the influence of the People's Republic of China. And of course, this Taiwan also is a very useful ploy to confront and also distract Beijing every now and then. Now, of course, the main country regarding Taiwan's position outside the People's Republic of China is the United States. Of course, since early President Nixon's visit to the People's Republic of China, Taiwan has been derecognized as a country, whereas replaced by the People's Republic of China. And the United States is a one-China policy, always adhering to the one-China policy. But on the other hand, the United States has also a Taiwan Relations Act, which enables the United States to continue to supply arms to Taiwan to defend itself. Now, of course, the United States also sees Taiwan as a useful ploy to, again, distract and provoke Beijing every now and then. And it's going to be using Japan as another useful pawn in this game of the Asia Pacific. Don't forget that there is the first island chain centered in Okinawa and second island chain centered in Guam with a lot of American assets. So the new Japanese Prime Minister is trying to score a political point by making this provocative remark, saying that Japan definitely intervene in case Beijing sort of invades Taiwan, as if Beijing is going to do so. But of course, this Taiwan invasion story has been hyped up consistently many times before by the United States and other Western countries, by think tanks and so on, without realizing that Beijing's strategy towards Taiwan is not through military invasion. It's through a combination of both military deterrence against any separatist movement, economic integration, because there are a lot of business opportunities on the mainland, and then a lot of Taiwanese people, together with members of the family, are already working and living on the mainland, about 300,000 of them. Now, most of the Taiwanese people do not want unification, but neither do they dare to declare formal independence. But on the other hand, the two peoples are increasingly visiting one another. There are lots of business opportunities on both sides, and the Taiwanese young people are increasingly finding opportunities on the mainland. So I think the momentum is there for peaceful unification, and for Japan to hype up the kind of military dimension is not very helpful.
And what do you think, what potential strategies should or could Japan adopt to balance its support for Taiwan by balancing or avoiding escalation with China?
Well, I think that Japan, of course, geographically also occupies a very important position in the Asia Pacific. And of course, Japan is an ally with the United States. And then there are joint military exercises, and Japan relies on the United States for armament. So I think that that's sufficient to guarantee Japan's own security. But of course, the new Japanese Prime Minister, again, along with Mr. Van Tor, the previous Japanese Prime Minister, they belong to the party who sees Japan as not bound by the Second World War Constitution, which restrained Japan from militarization. And then her party and her own self, the new Japanese Prime Minister, wants to amend the Constitution to enable Japan to rearm and to behave as a, within quotation marks, normal country. And hence, I think that this is another reason why she start hyping up the Taiwan threat narrative.
And how do you think, in what ways could China leverage historical narratives and to strengthen or to influence Japan's foreign policy decisions on Taiwan?
Well, as I said, I mean, they always want to hype up certain things and drag the United States into the argument, because for the United States doesn't want to have a war, because Taiwan is thousands of miles away, but nevertheless, the United States has the Taiwan Relations Act, and it's a main supplier of arms to Taiwan. And of course, the United States is locked horns with a rising China, and it's using Japan as a useful ploy. And so Japan knows that and is willing to be used as a ploy, and using the United States as a leverage to increase its own national security and to expand its own influence.
Right. Thank you very much, Andrew, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you. Now we stay on this topic. Political figures across Japan have strongly denounced Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's remarks after she hinted at the possibility of military involvement in the Taiwan Strait. Critics expressed concerns over the legal basis, policy logic, and potential regional security risks stemming from her statements, which they said will exacerbate tensions in Japan-China relations. While responding to Takaichi's comments, Ukeru Magosaki, a former Japanese foreign ministry official, stated that the Taiwan question is purely China's internal affair, and Japan must honor its political commitments regarding Taiwan. According to Ukera, in 1972, China and Japan jointly issued a statement that stated Japan recognized and respected the position that Taiwan is an inalienable part of the territory of the People's Republic of China. Let's listen into what he has said.
共同声明が発しられて、そこでは台湾は中国の一部であるという中国の主張を日本は尊重するということを明確に言っていますから。
Now for this discussion, we welcome back Andrew K. Long. He's a China strategist, joins us live from Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Andrew, for staying with us. Now, Andrew, looking at this, how could Prime Minister Takaichi's remarks on potential military involvement impact Japan's adherence to the 1972 China-Japan joint communique and its diplomatic credibility? And how significant was the Chinese ambassador's warning regarding Taiwan?
Well, of course, there are different political parties in Japan which hold different positions or different narratives on Taiwan. And of course, Japan occupied Taiwan before the Second World War. And after the Second World War, Japan was defeated. And according to the treaty, changes to San Francisco Treaty, Japan is was required to return all its occupied territories to the former nations, including Taiwan. So, the reversion of Taiwan back to China is a very, very strong support historically, and especially after the Second World War, Japan was defeated. So he was absolutely right. But on the other hand, as I said, it's not as if the new Japanese Prime Minister is claiming sovereignty. She's just hyping up the Taiwan threat as if mainland China is going to invade Taiwan. And by invading Taiwan, the new Prime Minister is touting this narrative that somehow this would impinge on Japan's security, which is, of course, is overblown. Because even though, as I said, mainland China occupies Taiwan, it doesn't mean necessarily China is going to invade Japan. But on the other hand, Taiwan occupies a very special position in Asia-Pacific geographically, and then Taiwan wants to maintain the status quo. And I think it's the same view is likely to be held in Washington. But on the other hand, Washington takes a neutral position on China's sovereignty, except the part that the Washington has a Taiwan Relations Act, as I said.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank Andrew K.P. Long for joining us today and sharing that insight throughout this news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. The UN, as per a survey it conducted last month, has found that the Israeli defensive forces are erecting T-walls across the Blue Line, which is a demarcation line mapped by UN to separate Lebanon from Israel in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Stephanie Dujarric, the spokesperson for UN Secretary General, has now confirmed that the walls constructed by IDF southwest of Yarun region are crossing the Blue Line and making 4,000 square meters of Lebanese territory inaccessible to the Lebanese population. He has also added that the UN peacekeepers have noted an additional section of the alleged wall being built southeast of the Yarun region. Let's listen into what he has said.
Our peacekeeping colleagues at UNIFIL issued a statement on that today. UNIFIL's survey conducted last month confirms that concrete T-walls erected by the Israeli Defense Forces southwest of Yarun crossed the Blue Line, making more than 4,000 square meters of Lebanese territory inaccessible to the local population. UNIFIL informed the IDF of its findings and requested that the walls be removed. And the peacekeepers also noted that a section of additional wall is being erected southeast of Yarun, likewise that crossed the Blue Line. We underscore that the Israeli presence and construction on Lebanese territory is a violation of Security Council Resolution 1701, as well, obviously, of Lebanon's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Moreover, Dujarric has stated that UNIFIL has already informed the Israeli military of its findings and further made requests for the wall to get removed. An Israeli military spokesperson has, however, denied accepting the survey reports, saying no Israeli wall has crossed the Blue Line. This is the only response that has been received from the Israeli side on the matter as of now. Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Gigi Dwivedi. He's an international relations and defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for joining us again.
You.
Thank you. Now looking at this, I wanted to ask, as you have defense background, what strategic objectives might the IDF be pursuing by erecting fortified barriers in disputed areas, and how could this affect deterrence dynamics with Hezbollah in Lebanon now?
Well, Suma, first and foremost, the border between Lebanon and Israel have been disputed, and it has been a scene of contention way back since 1978, when the Palestinian Liberation Organization had embedded here in this region, and later on the Hezbollah, in 1982, once Hezbollah was formed, then they have been also very strongly entrenched here. So therefore, Israel faces or perceives that it has existential threat from the southern Lebanon. Now that's basically the historic position. And of course, in 2000, a line was created, the blue line, that runs across almost 120 kilometers, which is de facto border now between Lebanon and Israel. You know, since October 2023, when the Hamas carried out a fatal aggression against Israel, the northern border of Israel also got activated and the Hezbollah also jumped into the fray. So since October 2023, this border has been very active. Now coming precisely from the military angle, as to what the walls are, why they are constructed, what is the tactical advantage, because you see, when the border is plain, and this border runs largely along the Litani River, when you construct the walls, then you gain a tactical advantage. First and foremost, you deny the opponent any aggression or any encroachment into that area, and at the same time, you have an advantage to fight from behind the walls. The walls act like fortification or pillboxes or field fortifications, and therefore they have a definite advantage. Now, whether the Israelis have encroached beyond the blue line, well, I think the UN peacekeepers, they carry out a periodic survey, and if they say that they have crossed over, well, one has to take their point of view, and I would say that Israel also must oblige and abide by the survey of the UN forces, and not escalate this situation any further. But nonetheless, Israel is very sensitive to the northern border, and therefore it's always an attempt to have a fortified defenses against any activity by Hezbollah. Asuma.
Yes. Yes, Major General, thank you for sharing that invaluable expertise and clear insights, and bringing UN to the conversation now. What mechanisms should be prioritized to verify boundary-related military activity when UN findings and Israeli military statements directly contradict each other in this case?
Well, that's always the case, because Asuma, is very difficult, to keep a very close watch and also handle these kind of either encroachments or the violation of the laid down lines, because the point is, after all, the UN peacekeepers are only there to survey and then bring these violations or wherever there is the infringement to the notice of the two sides. So I think that in this case, apparently, Israelis have possibly overstepped and constructed the field fortification, which possibly violates the laid down blue line. And in all fairness, the violation should not be accepted. And once the UN peacekeepers have pointed out, then that must be taken very seriously. I think here the government can step in from the Israeli side and ensure that the sanctity of the blue line is maintained and the situation is not further escalated. In fact, even the Lebanese Prime Minister has also stated the same thing. So I think for the peace and stability of the region, it's prudent that both the sides, honor and maintain sanctity of the blue line for the larger good of the people. And if there have been encroachment and Lebanese people are not able to access the specific areas, then I think it's prudent on the Israelis to step back. Asuma.
Yes, indeed. And Major General, as you also rightfully mentioned, that Israel is indeed very sensitive towards its border disputes, especially in north side. What are the potential legal and diplomatic consequences for Israel if these findings that T-walls are crossing the blue line are confirmed again by other entity other than UN? And what implications could this dispute have for Israel's relations with Lebanon?
Well, the point is that Israelis have always followed a very muscular policy as far as the defenses are concerned. And they have done what they want to do with total disregard to the public opinion or to the opinion across the world. So that is their policy of very aggressive and preemptive in nature. how the Lebanese and the Israeli relations, as it is, they are very strained, and they'll only escalate further. And what I am skeptical is that the Hezbollah, who are now in this ceasefire mode, could come again, start the new kind of activities across the blue line, all on their borders, and this is only going to escalate the situation, because that's not good for the larger stability of the region. So I think that the good sense should prevail on Israel to restrain their ground forces, because many times also it happens that the ground commanders also overstep their mandate. So I think it's prudent on the Israeli government to ensure that sanctity of the blue line is maintained, and they abide by the obligations of the laid down parameters to maintain this stability and also peace along this blue line. Asuma.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank Major General Gigi Dwivedi for sharing that clear insight through as international relations and defense expert from New Delhi. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Asia. India has criticized Pakistan for heading the Security Council's Committee on Sanctions against the Taliban and co-chairing the counter-terrorism panel, citing conflicts of interest. India's permanent UN representative P. Harish says that the council members must be prevented from chairing committees when they have vested interests. This comes as Pakistan is co-chairing the Counter-Terrorism Committee while providing a safe haven to several terrorist groups and leaders, including those sanctioned by the UN, according to India. Pakistan is a non-permanent member of the 15-nation Security Council for the 2025 to 26 term. The sanctions committees of the Council comprise all 15 members of the Security Council, and they're making their decisions by consensus. Now we move on to U.S. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that he's withdrawing his support and endorsement of Republican lawmaker Marjorie Taylor Greene. In a post on Truth Social, Trump has stated that he is ending his backing of the congresswoman from Georgia. Greene, who is a member of the House of Representatives, has been a long-standing ally and vocal supporter of Trump. However, in recent weeks, she has taken positions that diverge from the White House and some fellow Republicans, prompting Trump's decision to resign his endorsement. Now we move on to our next news. Interstellar comet 3I Atlas, with its unusual blue-green glow and dusty tail, has sparked debate about its origins. While some suggest it could be an alien craft due to its structural integrity and powerful jets, other experts point to natural cometary behavior, citing radio signals indicating water loss. China on November 6th released the first ever images of the mysterious interstellar comet 3I Atlas as it passed near Mars, outspacing NASA, whose sharper photos remain unreleased due to the U.S. government shutdown that has ended recently. The stunning reveal marks a major moment in the global space race. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.
What we can do